to the third episode of Page Blockz. My name is Munya.
And Leo, everyone. My name is Dionne.
Alejo?
Enleo.
Alejo.
No, Enle.
Enle.
Enleo.
Enlejo.
So, Enleo is a way of greeting in the Yoruba language. And I thought I'd choose one of the languages spoken in Nigeria, seeing as today we're headed off to Niger.
Shout outs to my Nigerian brothers and sisters.
Hey, guys. So, today we're going to be reviewing the book by Yomi Jemibewon, right straight from the gate. If we mispronounce this surname,
forgive us in
we
advance.
apologize. We
apologize in advance, but we're going to try our best. We're not going to be like, I'm not going to try and pronounce that word. I'm going to try and pronounce every word.
So like I said, we are reviewing a book by Yomi. And Yomi is the managing director, partner, and co-founder at Cardinal Stone Partners, Ltd. And that's based in Lagos, Nigeria. He's married to a lady called Trisha, and they have 3 daughters. So Yomi is the son of General David Jemibewon, who is the ex-military governor of defunct Western State, and a former minister of police affairs in Nigeria. And his mother, who sadly passed away, was Mrs. Comfort Jemibewon. When we look at Yomi's education, he earned his Bachelor in Science and Master's in Science as well, in Electrical Engineering, and that was from Virginia Tech. And he acquired his MBA from the University of Pennsylvania. Now, in his early career, he worked as a management consultant in New York for Bain and Company. And he also worked as a research engineer for Motorola. So that's Yomi in a nutshell, I guess.
That's what's up. So in our usual style, I'm going to talk a little bit about the book. And it's going to sound like I'm repeating what Dionne has just said, because it's, the book is about him. So it describes his personal journey from when Yomi realizes that his dream job in New York is no longer his dream job, right? So he realizes this by constantly having a feeling of emptiness from not having a personal connection with what he was doing. At the time, he was working for a $20 million company. He was part of a team that was involved in maintaining the market share for this big company, but he was feeling unfulfilled, So as you said, he was born in Nigeria, moved to the U.S. at age 16, maintained that education that you beautifully said right there, and went on to work for Motorola. So without giving too much of what's in the book, because y'all got to go buy the book, and the link is going to be provided in the link below in the description section. He basically decides to move back to Nigeria, right? So essentially this book is a personal account of events from when he realizes that he needs to change his trajectory in his life to present day. So it's an account of challenges, victories, and shall I say a roadmap to how he got to where he is today. That's basically what it is.
Okay. Like when we talk about Yomi's writing style, I found the book surprisingly very refreshing because his approach makes the book very easy to read, and it's easy to be engaged with the book. It didn't take us literally, I think you read the book within was it a day? Literally a day.
I was done in about 8 hours.
Within 8 hours you're done.
So it's an easy read.
So it's definitely an easy read, and it's very relatable. I think personally, for me speaking, we were quite conscious of finding a book where people, given especially the uncertainties that are going on at the moment with COVID-19,
Absolutely.
We wanted something that everyone would be able to, relate to and have, that sort of like hope or inspiration and have a takeaway. So I think this book was a very good pick. Normally people set their resolutions in January. But I think actually February this year was the perfect time to then start looking at, what you want to do for the rest of the year.
And like you say, I think it's a very good pick for January, for February, for any point in time when you think you need to change. So it's definitely a good pick.
But I think it's a very balanced view of challenges and success. I think not a lot of people are able to showcase their vulnerability in that way. And especially for me, when I'm picking people who I either think inspire me or are role models, I always look as to whether they actually, speak about both sides to the story and not just showcase, the glamour side to it. I want to know what you went through, the pitfalls, and how you overcame, those challenges, because from every challenge an opportunity arises. But it has to be sort of like a blueprint that people are able to follow.
Account of events, isn't it?
Exactly. So yeah, I love his delivery. Very conversational, very engaging, holds no reservations, and done in a humorous manner as well. So I enjoy that.
Absolutely. I mean, I agree with you. Very personal style of writing, which conveys his inner convictions, beliefs, dreams, and ideals. You get to kind of get a picture of the kind of person that he is from when he moved, the issues that he had when he was over there, and some of the reservations, and him starting a family. So he gets really personal with it, which is, I think, like you said, it says a lot. And the greatest example there as well about, being personable and stuff like that, or being personal, is when he self-diagnoses himself with imposter syndrome.
What's imposter syndrome?
Look, I had to Google it because I never heard of it, so which is the advantage of reading, right? You always learn new things.
Yeah.
And Google described it as, that internal belief that you are not as good as perceived.
Oh, okay, yeah, I can relate.
I can say I've gone through that in certain situations, so yeah, I learned that.
Definitely. I didn't know that. Now I know. I'm gonna learn today.
That's what's up.
But definitely, I also like the fact that he uses or he documents, key business practices that he's learned from other moguls. So, for example, he talks about the co-founder of GTB, who's Fola Adiola. Within the book. And again, just for me, I think it was that emphasis, because at some point in time you have to think, when you look to start reading a book, can I actually gain something? Is this the right time to read the book? But it says that this book is for anyone who isn't happy doing what they're doing, or happy with where or how life is unfolding. It is for anyone considering another path, or debating whether to take a leap of faith. It is for anyone of any race, gender, age, nationality, profession, any educational level, and at any phase in your life. Whoever has woken up in the morning and said something needs to change, then this is the book for you. Absolutely. And for me, I just personally needed this book like right now. In that point of my life, it's been very invaluable to me. So yeah.
That's what's up. I'm gonna add it to my collection. I really enjoyed it, man. And I think, it's very relatable to us immigrants. You know what I mean? Because, we work so hard at our jobs.
Excuse me. I had to cough. I'm sorry.
Coronavirus?
It's not.
We need a mask. Hey, man, let me go to my corner right here, man. You stay right over there.
2 meters apart. It's okay. I'm just going to have some water.
Yeah, like I was saying, a lot of us, we work jobs, and we work so hard at our jobs with the hope of getting that promotion. You know what I mean? Praying that it's going to come, but sometimes the promotion never comes. What do you do in those situations? Sometimes you got to take the leap of faith, and there's so many factors and variables that we go through that affect our experiences here in the in the Western world, being immigrants. Like he explains and details factors in his book, like on page 25, when he talks about being told to kind of like change his accent a little bit. You want to tweak it a little bit so you sound less Nigerian. You know what I mean? Your vocab and stuff like that. Yeah. We can all attest to that.
I definitely can attest to that. So I used to work for this one place, quite a very posh and prominent place. And I would literally see the transition, me included, in all the other sort of third world country speaking people. So coming from any meetings or boardroom meetings and stuff, as soon as we get to the canteen, everyone is back to the usual accent and lingo, and just not Africans, so even like sort of Indians and all Asians. So it was quite interesting as how people switch. So it's literally like you're chameleon. So you act according to what's needed. And it's quite a shame when we look at it, because the only person you can ever be is you. literally, but yeah.
I agree with you, and one of the reasons why this book is very important is when we look at influence in society. When we talk about it's really big on economics, and I think it's an important factor. Whereas when you look at even other countries and other cultures, their culture kind of like infiltrates the society of where it is. It's cool to kind of like have Indian food. It's cool to have sushi and stuff. But I say that to say this about this point.
Yeah.
It's like, and it's happened to me.
Yeah.
It's like, I really rock with African food. But sometimes I'll be like, I'm going to the cafeteria. There's going to be a lot of people.
Yeah.
If I crack open my boxes, they're like, what that smell? I don't want to tell. You know what I'm saying? Because we don't really... It's just, these are just some of the issues. You may agree or may not agree with what I'm saying, but he talks about that in the book, the complexities and, the variables that you go through being an immigrant, working in the corporate world and stuff like that. So this book covers that. And from a...
Watch out now. There's the fufu challenge. Have you heard of that?
No.
So the fufu challenge is people basically where you get a lot of like assorted Nigerian foods. And so predominantly West African foods, and people get to taste them. So it's a challenge basically of what you think of here.
Right.
It's been a hit and miss, but so hopefully we're getting there where we also recognize as
Yeah, we'll definitely get there and stuff like this.
Yeah.
Books like this, they kind of really like propel that.
Yeah.
And I was gonna say from a business standpoint, this book outlines the importance of good character, reputation. And as he details on chapter 4, which is headed A Brotherhood and a Blueprint. I mean, basically, when you look at the dynamics of how he met his business partners from, I think it's Michael, Muhammad, Yomi, and him, they got together based on the impact of their interactions. So he teaches us to always move with diligence because we never know where our lifeline is going to come from. Burning bridges and having a bad reputation will affect you, especially in business. And he also goes on to say your network is your net worth. And I think
that's so important. That's really important. I also like when we talk about what I took away from the book or any gemstones, at the afterword, the afterword of the book, which is on page 215.
Important section right there.
Very important. He lists 15 lessons that he's collected throughout the book. I mean, you can sort of find those trending topics within the book, but I like how he just summarizes them. And then it also becomes a go-to section. So even if you don't want to reread the book, you can always go back to those lessons and, be able to touch on them again. And then also in the book on page 6, it says, in every new journey, you will encounter many situations where you do not know what to do. And for me, that's quite important. Again, going back to what people have faced within 2020 and 2021, there's a lot of uncertainty. And sometimes if we're not careful, that uncertainty will make us feel stagnant. So sometimes it's okay, not to know what to do, like the next step. And he does that so very well. Right. We go through that journey with him. And it also says we can plan as much as we like, but you have to be able to face whatever life, throws at you and take the road less traveled.
That's a dope statement right there. It's, yeah. Sorry, I just gone somewhere.
Did you go? Did you? Well, come back.
I gotta get back. I mean, from what you're saying, over that, just to tie those things in, and it touched me personally because coming up as a young business person and me doing so many things, I wasn't always keen on listening to other people. I thought, it's my way. I'm gonna drive through with this. But what I learned from this book is just, the general takeaway is, your own conviction is important, but it's also important to consult, the people in that same industry or your parents or people that you revere in general. And I have 3 main points that I wrote down in my notes. See, we've been writing this because we take it seriously. That's why we have all these papers, because we take it seriously. So hopefully we'll give you a balanced review. Point number 1 is Trisha, the wife. Yeah. He always seems to go back to her and, bounce ideas back and forth, and as a matter of fact, she the one who was like, well, if you're not feeling like you want to carry on with your job in New York and you want to move to Nigeria, you know, you only live once. Let's do it.
Yeah.
So that was a big point for me, that, you know, the bouncing back and forth, and he listened. And apart from his business partners, you know, Mr. Adiola, who you mentioned earlier, they look up to him a lot. You know, being an older statesman and being a big homie, you know, they ask him about, you know, how to handle partnerships. There's 4 strong characters in there, and he talks about, you know, try and lock yourselves up in the room for a day and see how you get along and stuff like that. So, you know, it's and they even go and visit him in London, you know, for advice. So I think that was very instrumental in the success of what, you know, what they were doing. And the third and last point is when they were recalibrating the business, they got help from a whiz kid called Niyi Ogumbayo. You know, excuse me if I pronounce that wrong. And he was a junior trader with PHB Bank. You know, so they had to. These are 4 well-educated, very experienced individuals, and they had to kind of like get advice from a younger statesman, a younger cat, to get the game, and he gave him the game, and they managed to work. So you know, sometimes you have to do that. You know, you know, they say a fist is stronger than a finger jab.
That's so true.
Yeah.
And you know, even when we talk about being able to compromise, because when Nee came on board, his package had to be different. You know, they had to sort of like renegotiate the contract, where sometimes people will be very rigid, like, no, this is what we're offering, and sometimes you end up losing out just because you couldn't compromise. And shout outs to Trisha, like, I mean, she played a very big part. And again, it's just like you're saying, having that strong team around you. But we also talk about incentives, because that was one of his incentives of relocating, you know. So sometimes it's either your back is pushed to the wall, or you have to find something that, you know, draws you closer to your goal, into your dream. So you definitely want to make sure that the people around you, you know, sometimes where you can't see that vision for yourself, people can see that for you, or be able to, you know, encourage you to fulfill that vision. What I also got, there was a gentleman called Gary Holbert, and he mentions this about the book. He says, find your starving crowd. And for any business to succeed, you need a starving crowd that needs what you have to offer. In certain circumstances, what you may have may not be the best, but based on location, competitive advantage of some other factors, the crowd has no choice but to patronize you. The key thing to note is that there is a market for every product, but no product for every market. And that also led me to one of the key points that I found, and I thought was quite ingenious in the way that he did it. On page 142, he talks about the S curve. And this just brought me back to my undergraduate degree when I was doing business. So anyone who's done business or economics, you know about the S curve. And it says, one thing I always remember from business school is the concept of how businesses go through the S curve evolution. You know, where a business starts at a point of low revenue and slow growth while trying to figure itself out. Then it transitions to a period of accelerated growth. The period could be short-lived or extended depending on the industry and the circumstances. Eventually, the growth tapers out as the business matures. This arc is shaped as an S, thus the name. This is what we learn in business school as the way businesses typically evolve. Then he does go on to say, well, I'm not sure about the US and more developed markets, but I can categorically say that in Nigeria, this is not how businesses evolve. So something I've always fought with or grappled with is understanding whether what we learn in educational institutions is actually tailored to the African market or other third world countries. Because for anyone who's tried to do business, in particular in Africa, especially coming from the diaspora, you'll see that there are a lot of hurdles or challenges that you wouldn't necessarily face here.
You know what? Not to stop you short, even bigger than that. It's just like the whole European education and the whole European experience, which is what we're given early in Africa. Does it really relate to us, you know, or does it really, how does it relate to our values and how we move and our markets and our needs and our wants? It's constantly a battle and an antagonistic relationship where we having to conform, but it's very, very different. So, you know, that's I hadn't thought about that. I thought about it now. That's a big point. But
so it's always that circle fit into square,
Absolutely.
Dilemma. And so for me, it was quite good, refreshing to see that. But also, what he does is sort of like he gives those sobering moments, but he also gives solutions to them, guidelines as to how to tackle some of those issues. So I find that quite good. So yeah.
That's good. That's good. So we're going to move on to gems and takeaways. What do we take away?
That's what we took away. Are you trying to you got more takeaways?
I got more takeaways. What we taking away from the book? But it's pretty much, everything is falling into place. And I think the title Risk and Return is it's befitting of the book, because it's basically about, that's what it's dissecting. In everything you do in life, there's a risk and there's a return. So you constantly are weighing out the options and stuff. So that's basically what it's doing in a nutshell. Yeah. So, and one thing that I took away from that is, despite these guys are like, these guys are like demagogues, you know what I'm saying? These guys are well educated, but they still manage to make mistakes. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So in whatever you're doing, you're going to make mistakes, and, don't let that make you fall all the way back. Yeah. There's an example in there where I think they got investments and the business was going well. They were surprised everybody rocking with them. Yeah. And then, and they forgot to go collect the rest of the investment, and they still doing their thing, and the money was running out. I'm like, y'all forgot to collect the bread. I would have gotten the money first. I'm just saying, but
I'm not gonna make that mistake.
I would have got the bread.
Like, how much money do you have to forget the other money? Like, no.
And we're talking about millions. So, hey, man, but it just, basically just shows you that, you're gonna make mistakes. Just, despite how thorough you can be.
Yeah, and I think again, like you're saying, it just shows that it just brings like humanistic approach to it. Like, it's not something that's unattainable. And again, like the humans, like you're saying, people will make mistakes. So it becomes relatable. Mm-hmm. And I think as well that the fact of accountability, because for any progress in life, you always have to be able to check yourself and see where, as much as there's growth, you also have to look at areas of opportunity and where you need to change and,
and don't get lost in the sauce.
It sounds like
don't get lost in the sauce. I just have to say that. And whatever you're doing, don't get lost in the sauce. True. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. And you're definitely lots of nuggets and bits of information for somebody who wants to start a new business. There's the art of negotiating in there, leveraging, knowing when to hold back and when to move forward. Yeah, a lot of gems and jewels. But I have to play the devil's advocate, right? And just look onto the other side so we can be thorough here with our reviews. We do it for y'all. I think you could argue that the approach, may not work for everyone, especially if you're not as connected as he is in Nigeria or wherever you intend to move, and you take a similar approach. Yomi seems to have connections, with people in banking, lenders and other major players in Nigeria. So you might struggle if you're not as connected as him. So, you could say that, because a lot of the people that are, that he talks about there in the book are in acquisitions, capital management, investment. It could come across as not relatable to the everyday person with average circumstances. Now, not everyone would be able to move abroad or back home and still manage to have a comfortable life.
I agree with you. I agree with you. But again, I think, and why we work well as a team is you use a lot of logic and I use a lot of feelings. So what I would say that, for example, right, if you use a street vendor, or someone who sells at the market. So from just before that point, you had mentioned about negotiations, and there's another word that you use. I don't know if you can find it there.
When I said negotiating, leveraging
and leverage, yeah. So exactly. So when we talk about a vendor, right? So let's say, for example, for argument's sake, someone is selling tomatoes. We can still use the same principles of interest, returns on investment. When we talk about negotiating as well at the market. So again, I think it's just how you look at it. And sometimes what we don't realize is that there are a lot of entrepreneurs already. There are a lot of business startups that don't necessarily look as well polished as they would as the ones in the book. but it doesn't mean that, it'll still be the same fundamental principles.
I agree. I totally agree. I would say it's the same thing as, you might go to to Sainsbury's and get some lobster frozen.
Yeah.
Or you could go to Red Lobster and get it off served, but it's the same thing. So I agree with you as well. It's just like sometimes when we read certain things, it's just like how he's talking about, like you said, it's a personal account. So he's talking about the same thing, but at an upper level. But that's what I'm just saying, that sometimes it could be, and to be honest, I'm nitpicking because I want to be thorough. But
which I appreciate, because I think out of the both of us, you are bigger on economics and business. So I think it would take a lot for you to say that. Whereas I would have expected it from me, because the stuff is more relatable to what you do. So it is a fair point, and I think it is a balanced. It's a standpoint.
But we're giving the people what they need. Right?
Aim to please.
So bam. I mean, so for me, I would give the book 6.5 out of 10 based on all these things I mentioned. It's a 6.5. That's fair and that's generous, I think.
Really?
Yeah, it's a good read. 6.5. What would you give it?
I would give it a loving 8.5 to 9.
Okay.
And I say that because, like you said, it's a good read. It's easy to read. Again, a refreshing approach as to how he writes the information. So it's not one of those books that you read and you're like, okay, really good read. Now, what do I do with the information? It's it's actually practical.
Oh yeah.
And then you know what? I'm being biased, but not a lot of African men would admit like when they receive help from wifey. So for me, kudos to that. Like that's why he got the half, because he's not afraid. He's not shy.
That's a whole different book right there. We need a whole library section now about that.
But for me, it's I always admire people who are not afraid to speak their truths, and it's sort of like also acknowledge and embrace the people around them. So I'd give it a comfortable 8.5 to 9. Yeah.
Cool. Well, overall, it's a very palatable read.
Yeah.
It's full of actual specific hands-on approach to business, not only in Nigeria or in Africa, but from a returning citizen. But it's just overall, like you said at the beginning of our review. Yeah. So it's real life experiences, challenges, triumphs, setbacks, and victories. So, I would have to say it gives us hope.
Yeah. Would you read it again?
I definitely would read it and recommend it.
Yeah.
Especially it gives us hope, not only from, sometimes we have this mentality that, we always expect the West to help us as an African nation. And when he's doing a hands-on approach, I'm going to move back home. Yeah. I was working in New York. I had this big job, but I'm going to move back home and I'm going to be a mover and shaker. Not all of us are brave to do that. So this is a ray of hope for us, people out here in the diaspora, because we came out here for a better living, but he actually went back to make a difference. So as far as I'm concerned, I give him a lot of props, my brother. This is a good book, and I would recommend it. I'm adding it to my library, and I'm going to get back to it and read. As somebody who's doing business already, the crossover is beautiful. So, it's definitely a good book.
I think he definitely has that Afro-futuristic approach to life, which is very inspirational. Yeah. So now we go on to the QV, which is the quote or verse of the week. Yeah. And this week it was my turn to choose. Yeah. So I chose an African proverb which says, "An ant on its feet can do more than an elephant lying down."
Wow.
So which is, an ant on its feet can do more than an elephant lying down. So I basically just chose something that would be relatable or relative to the book. Again, it all starts with literally starting. You have to start from somewhere with what you have, who you know at that particular time. Right now is the perfect time to start.
Beautiful quote right there. And the next book that we are going to review is by Credo Mutwa, and the title is Indaba, My Children, African Tribal History, Legends, Customs, and Religious Beliefs.
That is one of my prized possessions when I talk about books. I'm so excited about this review. So, yeah.
I'm excited about it. I'm going to be learning a lot.
I'm going to learn.
I'm going to be learning a lot. But, hey, man, that's been another review. And you see what I'm wearing right here? I got the Spell hoodie. you know, the yellow. I call it yellow. What you call it? This is what?
Sunflower yellow.
Sunflower yellow. I call it yellow. But
Yellow.
if you like, you know, these clothes and this drip, y'all follow Spell Clothing on Instagram and Spell Clothing and get you some of this drip. Very affordable. And yeah, that's been.
And this week I actually learned how to say goodbye as well. So in Yoruba, so it's Odabo.
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 Odabo, folks.
I pray we pronounce it.
Yo, yeah, thank you for watching. Subscribe. Leave a comment in the comment section, whether positive or if you don't agree with what we're saying, leave it down there, share, and make it do what it do. But let's edify the mind. Let's make reading cool again.
Yeah.
Right.
Stay safe, everyone.
All right, peace.